What are you in Detroit for? The Red Wings need a new goon?
Hi, my name is Melanie. Let me tell you about some of our specials. Today, there's the alfalfa on my mind. That's our featured omelet. Or there's Gatsby's West Egg omelets. And if you're in the mood for something different, there's the I Left My Heart in San Fran Cheesy.
What do you have?
2 poached eggs, scrape off the milky white stuff. Hash browns well done. English muffin for the bread and a coffee.
Whole grain pancakes and an egg white omelet, please.
What would you like in your omelet?
Nothing in the omelet, nothing at all.
Well, that's not technically an omelet.
Well, I don't want to get into a semantic argument over it. I just want the protein, all right?
Take a trip with us to Nilbog. Just promise not to drink the goo.
Oh my God!
If you get sucked into the Matrix, we will sing the phone for you.
Do you believe in fate?
But every movie has a plot hole, and every hole gets filled somehow with whiskey, wine, or blue milk. Just don't cut me off right now. We're the Plotaholics, a breakfast club of two. We're the Plotaholics, ripping plots apart for you.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Plotaholics podcast. I am Shane Wilson, and I'm a Plotaholic.
And I'm Bryan 10, and I'm a Plotaholic.
And Bryan, I am 0 days sober because today we are talking about Grosse Pointe Blank as a part of our Summer of Cusack.
Summer of Cusack! Oh, John Cusack, oh, summer!
And you know, it is I'm excited because what a oh God, what do I even want, a chore it was last week.
God, it was not a chore. Come on.
I kid. I know that one holds a special place in your heart. But hey, we've got big news because this week we are joined by the third Plotaholic, Joe Compton. So Joe, welcome.
Joe Compton!
Hello. I am Joe Compton, and I'm a Plotaholic for today.
Yes, at least for today.
Joe Compton marked out when he found out we were doing Grosse Pointe Blank this time.
Yeah, because I have a cool story about it.
I'm excited to hear that story too. So if you're listening at home and you hear any strange sounds, that's because Joe is broadcasting from his car.
Live from his car.
Yeah, so you might hear high-speed chase or something. He does live in California, so
yeah. I hear O.J. Simpson's in your back seat. True.
I cannot confirm nor deny that, and I will never do either.
That's fair. That's fair. So let's go ahead.
The one interesting thing about being in Joe Compton's car is that we don't get the Joe Compton special tonight.
That's true.
If we do get the Joe Compton special, then it will be a more awkward version.
Yeah. I do have. I think there is a Starbucks cup in here somewhere. So.
Yeah, there you go. If you do not know what we're talking about. If you do not know what we're talking about, you need to go back and listen to the post-credit scene on the Endgame episode.
Yes, yes, you must. Marvel has end credit scene, and so do we.
Yep, occasionally. Now, this is our. Oh God, is it the third?
This is our third
episode.
Summer of Cusack film.
And
so, am I from that intro? Am I to believe you didn't enjoy One Crazy Summer, Shane?
Well, you can hear all of my thoughts. By the time this episode comes out, that episode will have been out for a little while. It actually comes out tomorrow. So you'll
July
get
1st, yeah.
Yeah,
that's One Crazy Summer. One Crazy Summer drops tomorrow, July 1st. We're recording this June 30th.
Yeah. By the time you hear this, it'll have been out about 2 weeks. So
yeah. So for those of you that are like, if I just blew your minds this time, we pre-record these.
Yeah,
we have to.
Right. So you can hear all of my thoughts. Joe, I liked it, but in a way that I can't really articulate.
Ah,
You know,
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, so I
was-
make the argument in that episode that One Crazy Summer might be a masterpiece of cinematic magical realism. Or a critique of late capitalism. But I digress.
Yeah, I'm like
The only way to win is to cheat, my boy. The only way to win
That's
is
right.
to cheat.
Yes,
right.
Joe Compton with the quote. I'm
Um,
actually in our One Crazy Summer episode right now doing some updates to the episode description to make it all nice and pretty and
Nice.
everything.
Well, that is One Crazy Summer is long in the rearview mirror for us, boys. Tonight we discuss Grosse Pointe Blank, and I'll slice you off a little bit of summary. This comes courtesy of Wikipedia. Hitman Martin Blank finds himself depressed and disillusioned with his work. Grosser, his chief rival, is attempting to unionize the hitman business, but Martin refuses to join, putting the two at odds. Following a botched contract, Martin accepts an invitation to his high school reunion in his hometown of Grosse Pointe, Michigan. He is persuaded into going by both his reluctant therapist, Dr. Oatman, and his secretary, Marcella, who books him a contract in Michigan that coincides with the reunion, ostensibly to make amends with the client whose contract was botched.
That was very thorough.
Yeah,
It was
it's
very
pretty good.
thorough.
Yeah, usually if you can skip down to the plot part of Wikipedia, the first paragraph is pretty on point. The only thing they don't really mention is Martin's high school sweetheart, Debbie Newberry, who becomes like a fairly important part of the plot.
Yep. Played by the great Minnie Driver, man.
Yeah, and
not too long off of her Good Will Hunting fame.
Yeah.
This movie was released in 1997. It was made on a budget of $15 million and made just over 31 million at the box office. So it doubled its budget, which I think is pretty good.
Yeah, for the time, yeah, it is a good job.
Well, the amount of stars that are in this movie, I would imagine that probably deflates a lot of that profit.
That's a good point. That is a very good point by you, because you figure Grosser's played by the great Dan Aykroyd, who he was a little bit out of his depth for me in this one, but I mean, he was still really, really good. I mean, well, Cusack was out of his depth for me as well. I mean,
so when you look at the Cusack and Driver and Aykroyd, maybe some of them are out of their depth, but all of them are sort of at peak. Like Cusack is peak Cusack, Driver is peak Driver. This is their time period, so they were all sort of coming with a hefty price tag, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's safe to say.
Although I do know one of them was already attached to the movie, but that's all right.
Okay, yeah. So Joe is here because he has some background information. Now, Joe, is it going to be more helpful to our audience if we go through a breakdown and then talk about your story, or do we get your story at the top?
It doesn't matter either way. It really, it has no like true bearing on the plot line or anything like that. So
yeah. Well, let's go ahead and get that story from the top so that we can work with that knowledge as we go through.
So I actually read a first draft of this screenplay. I was working at a temp job right before I was about to go into the Marines. And Tom Jankovic is the writer, and he was a professor of literature, I believe. I'm not sure. He might have been theater professor at the time at Upland College, and I was working in a temp job there, and I was trying to date a girl court a girl that worked there as well, and she took his class, and she had a copy of his script, and turns out she had a copy because her dad was an agent in Hollywood, and she was supposed to hand it over to a certain person. I don't remember who the celebrity was, but it wasn't anybody who's actually in the movie. And in the very first page it said starring Dan Aykroyd. So they had Dan Aykroyd attached to the film prior to.
Nice. So
what's interesting.
So this was going to be an Aykroyd vehicle then.
Well, I think he was always going to play the part he played, but
gotcha.
but they had his name in there so that they could sell it, I think.
Oh,
so
gotcha.
That's what I'm thinking. I don't know the story. I never met Mr. Jankowitz at all. He passed away before I could even try to meet him. So I don't know if that's a spoiler alert or not, but Tom Jankowitz is no longer with us. This is the only movie he ever wrote, too. If I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken on that, but I believe this is the only one he ever wrote. But it was about his hometown. So, and it wasn't Grosse Pointe, but it was some other hometown. And it was a different hometown in the original screenplay as well. And they were trying to get it made, and they were trying to do it in Hollywood. So they were gonna make the movie in Hollywood. I don't know if that ended up happening or not. I'm sure Bryan has all the particulars on where it was made and everything like that. But
whenever you looked at it was clearly not titled Grosse Pointe Blank if it was going to be shot or if it was going to take place.
Yeah, it was something on the streets of Michigan or something like that. It wasn't Grosse Pointe Blank, but it was
even witty at all.
Martin Blake was the main character, though. It was. I mean, a lot of what I remember about the screenplay was in this movie, except for the FBI agents part. They never were. It was always going to be the hit squad was after him, not the FBI guys.
Gotcha.
Oh, okay.
But other than that, everything else was pretty much on point. I remember the Quickie Mart scene when it blew up. I remember that scene specifically and laughing really loud when I read it the first time, because it's so funny because it has Motorhead's I think it's Ace of Spades that plays during that time when the kids listening to it. And it has it listed in there. Kid is rocking out to Motorhead.
That's funny. You know, that'll be when we get to that section. I love that scene so much, and we'll probably play a clip of it, which means that on the YouTube version of this podcast, you will not get to hear that clip because
you'll hear something else.
Right. Now,
Bryan singing Ace of Spades.
The screenplay is attributed to Tom Jankowitz, which you said, but also has 3 other writers attached to it.
Yeah, I know that. I know that Joe Compton had to redo it once he picked it up. So
right. So I was curious about what all. Clearly, like through the rewrites, they added they changed those 2 characters to FBI agents and tweaked a couple of other things. But that whole
named it Grosse Pointe Blank, which I think is the most brilliant thing about it. I always thought it had a shitty title.
Yeah, that Streets of Michigan thing is not good. Grosse Pointe Blank is witty in about 5 different ways.
Yeah.
It's.
But that's my little piece of history with this movie. So I always
love it.
I always had an affinity for it. And
did you ever get to make out with that chick?
No, it didn't work out.
Whatever happened to her? Whatever happened to her, Shane? I want to know what happened to her, Shane. Don't you?
Yeah, I know. This podcast quickly becoming Joe Compton biography.
Seriously. So Joe whatever Compton. Happened to her?
Well, I went in the Marines and I never heard from her again.
She couldn't handle the fact that Joe went to go serve his country.
I think it's probably better to do that than what a lot of other military guys tend to do, which is just marry that chick before he leaves.
Yeah.
That
wasn't going to happen. I knew that I was going to be a Marine, so I knew that I wasn't going to need to worry about the element of having girlfriends or anything like that. So
right. Yeah.
At least I thought that. I was a naive, 18-year-old kid. So what did I know? But
yeah. So
that is an awesome story, though. That is a very awesome.
That's a great story.
I had never seen a screenplay before. That was the first time I'd ever seen a screenplay, and I was like, "This is cool. This is how they make movies." And she was telling me all about it, and I was like, "Wow, this is cool."
When the movie I don't know if that came out, how long did it take you to realize that it was the one that you had read?
Probably pretty right away, I would imagine. I don't remember. But I do remember I clicked right away that I knew what this story was.
Well, and one of the things about this movie, and this is something that kept coming up when I was watching it with the little group that I watched it with the other night, is that in terms of story, it's kind of a romantic comedy and it's kind of a thriller, but it's like the way that all those elements fit together in this particular film is unlike almost anything else that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was, I mean, it was like a romantic comedy, but it was kind of a dark romantic comedy. The one issue that I kind of had with this movie is that it's trying to be witty, but it's trying to be witty, it's trying to be funny, but it also has this little dark element to it as well. And I think at certain points in time, if I'm, being critical, it's that it doesn't truly know what it really wants to be. It just wants to be. Like for other films that are on this panel, One Crazy Summer, you know what it's going to be. It's going to be this silly, goofy trek over, this guy with his group of friends over the summer. With High Fidelity, it's gonna be a drama with some funny moments, but it's sort of a dramatic film, but with dry wit. With Grosse Pointe Blank, it was like it had some of like the dry wit, but it had that bit of darkness that, for me, well, for other people it probably fits perfectly, but for me it was kind of a more of a tough fit.
I think that for me, in terms of tone for this movie, like, it worked for me, but I can totally understand where you're coming from in terms of sometimes those moments of comedic release and the moments of like high tension or darkness butt up against each other in ways that are a little bit jarring. But it worked for me for the most part, and I think that it worked for me just because in a large sense because of its novelty. Because, like I said, like, it's not like a lot of other movies. If it's like any movies, I don't know that I could put my finger on very many. But so that made it interesting to me that it was aesthetically and tonally, it was challenging. And when we talk about writing as authors, all of us are authors as well. And there's this buzzword that is sort of popular right now, and that is like genre bending, right? We like to experiment with multiple genres in our books, and this is exactly what this movie does. And I think for the most part, for me at least, it worked, but I can understand where it would make it hard to market this movie, and it would make it hard to. I'm surprised he sold it, honestly, because it doesn't fit neatly into one of those boxes.
Correct. And that's sort of what I was going for when I was talking, with my critique, is that it doesn't fit into any one mold. And you've got, like John Cusack, as much as I love the guy, I can't even take him like serious. I can't take him as a hitman. No, I can't. And I mean, maybe that's what would make him a good hitman. But I mean, like Keanu Reeves. At first, when you first find out that he's going to be in this film about a retired hitman, it's like, Keanu Reeves is kind of unassuming, but okay, I can see him being a hitman. Because we've seen Keanu Reeves fight and be a tough guy.
Right. I mean, but everybody has to be a tough guy at least once before you can see them as a tough guy, right?
That's true. I mean, that is true. But I mean, how often have we seen John Cusack be a tough guy?
Effectively, I would argue this is probably the only time.
And it doesn't even. I mean, the fight choreography isn't bad. It's not. But I can't picture John Cusack whooping my ass.
Yeah, and I do want to get Joe's thought on this, and this is what I'll say. I don't think that John Cusack in this movie. I don't think that Martin Blank is supposed to kick your ass. Martin Blank is supposed to shoot you from a window. Like, you're not supposed to ever see the guy, Right. And to that, like, that's the only kind of badass I think John Cusack can be, is the kind that doesn't have to fight me.
Right. But I mean, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, it's also clearly documented pretty quickly. In the first 15 to 20 minutes, we see him botch 2 attempts. So
Very true.
Part of it is that, like, maybe he's a hitman, but I think he's obviously not. He's not very good. He's good enough to survive, I guess, but he's not doing very well. Anyway, Joe, your thoughts? Is Joe here?
Joe? Are you still here, Joe? Did we lose Joe?
we lost Joe, man. So we're back, and we lost Joe for a minute, but
yeah, we
I want
lost.
to
You know, that was kind of funny because Shane and I were trying to get Joe back. We were trying to get you back, Joe. We're like, wow, Joe's pretty quiet. Is he still here?
I was like, Joe is being respectful as hell right now of our opinions. But yeah,
I
so Joe,
was
your
listening.
thoughts?
I was just listening, but yeah.
Yeah, let's get your thoughts on the difference on the different genres being thrown into this thing, and also on whether or not you think Cusack is a credible hitman.
I agree with you, Shane. I thought that it's so unique and different that it works. But I also see Bryan's point a lot because you know, with this kind of subject matter, they're kind of making light of it, and it's not a light and fluffy subject matter to per se. But you
Right.
never see.
I was gonna say, I don't think this movie would get sold today, not in its current form.
Yeah, probably not.
Nah, it would be. It would have to have a lot of changes. It would probably be more slapsticky.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest. And that would. I mean, I don't want to throw too much opinion on it at this exact moment, but if they made this slapstick, that would kind of ruin sort of the heart of the film. You know,
Yeah.
it would ruin why so many people love the movie. So this is definitely one of the many instances of, yeah, that couldn't get made today. Or if it did, it would have to be an independent film without any studio involvement.
And yeah, you know, there's a movie that comes to mind that I don't know if it's before it or after it that follows the kind of same sentiment, but it's a lot darker in its comedy, and that's called Cold Blooded with Jason Priestley. And he's a hitman who kind of is a loner, and he finds he gets involved with a girl, and it's a little different storyline, but it's the same. It's the same tonally in terms of that it's comedy. It's not really a comedy. It's more of like a satire. And I thought that this movie was more of a comedy than a satire, that's because of the people in it. But you know, you have Jeremy Piven, you have Hank Azaria, all the bit players in it, and they really make a difference in how the movie's tonally, I think.
Yeah, I think if any major directors make a movie like this today, it's definitely more on the Judd Apatow side of things because it does have heart, like it does have a moral center to it, and that kind of comedy is essentially just relegated to the guys that work with Seth Rogen and those folks and Judd Apatow.
Yeah,
you have
I can see that.
You have the Apatow vehicle right now with what's his name on HBO, the Barry, that show Barry.
Yeah.
Which is that's kind of how it would have probably be approached.
Yeah, that's Bill Hader.
Yeah.
On that show. Yeah, and yeah, for sure. Because this there's still comedy that's made that's a little I don't want to say experimental because that's not really what it is, but that is a little genre bending that, you're not quite sure if it's okay to laugh at this or not. You know what I mean?
As far as
no, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No,
I was going to say, as far as John Cusack as a credible hitman, I'd have to think about that because I guess I suspend a lot of disbelief to kind of get there, but
because when they talk about it, they say, "Oh, I went to the military and I got good at killing." It's like, you're John Cusack.
Yeah.
So, one of my favorite elements of this movie, and we can start to get into the breakdown here in a minute, is how when he goes back to his hometown and everyone is asking him what he's been up to, he just straight up tells them that he's a professional killer. And like every time, and they just are like, oh yeah, is there a lot of money in that or whatever, because nobody believes him because who would really say that, right? But I thought that was a nice bit that kept happening over and over and over again.
That's pretty, and a lot of people are like, oh, you Martin.
Right.
Oh, you're such a rascally
Also,
scamp.
I'm pretty sure his teacher wanted to fuck him.
Oh yeah. Where and once again, where's that teacher when I was in school?
Well, I don't know that I wanted
about,
that one.
No, not that one.
Thinking about the tone of it though, and the way that John Cusack approaches it, it almost it's almost fits him in a certain way, because he approaches it with that kind of tongue in cheekness, but he's also it's like a comedian, right? Comedians are very, very funny, but they're very, very dark human beings, right?
Yeah.
So you don't know the other side of them, and all we get to see is this one like funny, engaging side of John Cusack, and he doesn't really want to show that side of it, which is also kind of plays into how good a job he does, because he's so reluctant to be on.
Yeah, what's interesting about that choice to me to make him in this part is, we talked about it when we looked at High Fidelity, and it's that he is so perfectly the everyman in whatever he's cast in, right? He's just a normal dude. And if you put somebody like Bryan mentioned, Keanu Reeves, in that part, then all of a sudden it's not the same movie anymore, because those same lines delivered by a different actor are going to not be funny anymore. Like, it's going to be a more competent killer. And what makes Cusack so great in this part is that if I were a hitman, that's what I would be like. I wouldn't know what to do half of the time, So I think that is part of, like what you said, he's playing it a little bit tongue in cheek, and he's playing it. I think Cusack is self-aware at this point in his career as to what he is, and I think that he's dialing that up.
If we're to believe a certain autobiography by a certain game show host named Chuck Berry, if we're to believe that's a true story, I mean, there's a guy who's a yuck man, and he was a hitman for the CIA, right? In his mind, in his story. So I mean, I guess it's possible.
I mean, like I said, I just don't feel like John Cusack is gonna whoop anybody's ass. And if he's supposed to be a military guy who got good at killing, he should at least be able to fight. And I mean, yeah, he has a fight scene with Dan Aykroyd, but I mean, even still, it's like,
Oh, the Austrian guy where he wraps him up in the president, the president banner.
Right.
Those are the only two that he has.
Also, the movie made very sure to put any fight scene where he had to go hand-to-hand combat against anybody, he was fighting people that he clearly could take care of.
Right.
They didn't put him up against anybody that was physically superior to him. Like, Dan Aykroyd isn't going to kick anybody's ass either.
Oh, hell no. Hell no. I'm every time he talked in that movie, I was expecting him to mark out for the PKE meter.
Well, and like let's just get into it, because we're gonna talk all the way around it if we don't hurry up and start talking about this movie. So, Grosse Pointe Blank opens with John Cusack, or Martin Blank, on assignment, hanging out a hotel window, about to take out some guy on a motorcycle. He's there. It looks like he's there on protection detail.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I thought. That's what it looked like to me. And then, of course, things sort of don't go that route.
Yeah, he takes out the bike. He takes out the bike messenger who's there to kill some other guy, but he doesn't take out a second assassin who is successful in killing the target. So, his, I guess, client counts that as a failure on his part, and his argument is that he was only being paid for the bicycle messenger.
Right. Now,
Martin, Grosse Pointe Blank also may be a critique of late capitalism.
Well, that's what it says. Also, it was sort of a hold on. Let me see if I can pull this up on my computer in front of me, because as I was doing some of my research on this film, I actually saw where it was said that that there are satirical elements on talking about like living in a capitalist society after Reagan was president. in a Bush Reagan economy. Let me see if I can find that here.
Well, they definitely took an interesting slant on unions and how to, the perks or drawbacks of working for yourself or working as a collective bargaining unit.
Yeah, and I mean that was crazy because I still remember when I was working as a corrections officer, if anyone brought up union, it was like if you even bring it up, you're fired.
Yeah.
But they would welcome a union coming in to talk to us. So it's like, yeah, you guys can come in and talk to them, but it was sort of like hinted that if you went and talked to them or tried to get involved with the union, that you were going to lose your job. So let me see, where does it say here in my oh wow, I'm like totally off. Where the hell is it at? I can't find it. I literally had it, and now it's gone. I am totally
I remember
off
seeing
today.
something like
This
that
is
too,
horrible.
but
This is horrible. I'm
good.
usually like really on these things,
Uh,
but
well, I think everybody at
It's the
home
heat.
probably needs to
The
know that
heat's
a tree
bothering
fell
you.
on your car.
yeah, the heat's messing with me. But
And
no,
a tree
it's
fell on
really
Brian's car today, so.
yeah, and the tree fell on my car, so I'm like really just discombobulated and pissed off, and like just things just aren't the way they should be,
Yeah.
which really blows.
So he he has like sort of this blown job at the top, and he's on the phone with his assistant, who
Played by
is
his sister, by Big Sister Joan.
That's right, who I think was excellent in this part.
Yeah.
She really was.
And she reads to him sort of the crux of the whole thing, which is an invitation to his high school reunion, and she thinks that he should definitely go.
She was really like, I think this is probably one of Joan Cusack's better supporting roles.
Yeah.
I mean, because Joan Cusack is a treasure, in my opinion. She, honestly, as great as John is, I think Joan just brings just that extra sort of mom / big sister to like every role that she's in.
Well, you did say it was the summer of Cusack. You just didn't say which Cusack. So we can
That's right.
celebrate
That's
all
a good
Cusack.
point. That is a good point.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, getting back to our previous little thing, I did find it where it says here, John Cusack saw this film as a metaphor for the Reagan Bush years. Fascinated by people in the Reagan administration, their ethics, their mercenary values, end quote. He said in an interview, quote, people who plan wars then go home to their wives and their kids. How do they live? To me, Grosse Pointe Blank was a metaphor for the people in the Bush White House, end quote. Elsewhere, he described the movie as a black comedy about the American dream, that win at all costs personality you see every day, a tongue-in-cheek look at the American value system. And you can also look at that, as you were saying previously, as, unions versus working for yourself, because, at the end of the day, while we all kind of, try to do things for the betterment of ourselves, we're working together on certain things, and there's always an air quote Emperor Palpatine in the background directing us.
Yeah, and we should get to this as well because all this union talk comes from Dan Aykroyd's character.
Yeah, and that's so hilarious to me because Dan Aykroyd takes out the guy that you think is going to be Cusack's Mark, and then he's like, "Hey, so where at you? Nowhere where you think I am. Oh, really?" And there
I see. Yeah, I see the clouds of the Burmese overhead there, bud.
And this character's name is Grosser, and he pulls up, and every time these two guys are on screen together, every time Cusack and Aykroyd are interacting with each other, it's just comedic gold to me because every time
so good.
Right, they are physically like squaring each other up. They both have their hands on their pistols in their pockets. Like they're both ready to kill each other at a moment's notice the whole time. It's so funny, their interactions. But Grosser approaches Martin
The
Blank
not
with
an
this,
omelet part is just like it's
yes,
screaming at me.
yeah, and that scene is so good, and that's from way later in the film. But so Grosser approaches Martin Blank and proposes the idea that all of the hitmen are going to unionize, so that they can level the playing field, and they can sort of create standards across the line here, and they can all sort of work together on these jobs. Cusack, or Martin Blank, I should say, decides that he would rather roll solo, and turns down that offer.
And of course, this is going to set up something serious, because I think that in a lot of ways, Grosser is like the alias of Roman Craig from The Great Outdoors. You don't want to tell Roman Craig no. Otherwise, he's just going to peel out driving backwards, and he's going to tell Annette Bening he's going to be away on business.
He's Roman Craig after he's murdered his family.
Yeah, pretty much. He's just like, you know what? This stockbroker thing isn't working. Hey, I have a proficiency for killing. Hey, how do you know? Oh, well, remember when I had a wife and twins? Wait, had? Yep.
Then shortly after this, we meet who I want to argue is the MVP in terms of minor characters in this movie, and that is Dr. Oatman.
Alan Arkin, man. He is so good. And I think, now, this came out in 1994.
97.
No, I'm sorry, 1996. Now, and let me double check this before I make my point. But he had done the Jerky Boys movie, where he played a I know, trust me, I actually do have a segue for this. Now, the Jerky Boys movie came out in 95. So it's like, so he went from playing an unassuming mob boss to being this unassuming, freaked out, but playing it very, very cool psychiatrist. Oh my God.
I thought his character in this movie was hilarious.
He really is.
He is not comfortable with being Martin Blank's therapist because
he's not
Martin
even
has
his
told
therapist.
him.
He's not
well,
even
yeah,
his
that's the
therapist.
thing. And Martin will refuse to let him quit on him, so he still shows up at the same time every week.
With offhand threats.
The great line in the first meeting too, when he goes, "I know where you live."
Right.
And he goes,
actually,
things like that make me uncomfortable. Please don't tell me that.
Let's listen to that first exchange between Martin and his therapist real quick right here.
It'll be depressing. Shouldn't you be taking notes or something?
I'm not taking notes, Martin, because I'm not your doctor.
Please don't start with that stuff again.
Martin, I'm emotionally involved with you.
How are you emotionally involved with me?
I'm afraid of you.
You're afraid of me.
And that constitutes an emotional involvement, and it would be unethical for me to work with you under those circumstances.
Don't you think maybe you're just upset because I told you what I do for a living and you got upset and you're letting it interfere with our dynamic?
Whoa. Martin, you didn't tell me what you did for a living.
Yes, I did.
You didn't tell me what you did for a living for 4 sessions. Then you told me. And I said, I don't want to work with you. And yet you come back every week at the same time. That's a difficulty for me. On top of that, if you've committed a crime or if you're thinking about committing a crime, I have to tell the authorities.
I know the law, okay? But I don't want to be withholding. I'm very serious about this process. And I know where you live.
Oh, now see, that wasn't a nice thing to say. That wasn't designed to make me feel good.
That is the kind. That's where this movie really shines for me, is in those kinds of moments in terms of just the dialogue, the way that it's written.
Yeah, it doesn't really skip a beat. It just it's almost kind of like natural conversation.
Yeah, there's a really nice rhythm to this movie.
Yeah, this is when you really get to see John Cusack's manic side too, and he
Yeah.
really goes
Really,
and
he
that
really
really brings an arc to the character that isn't there otherwise.
absolutely.
Well, and
Go ahead.
you also get to explore a little bit of that character's moral compass in some of
Yeah.
these scenes,
Oh,
because
absolutely.
right,
Which you
because
find
there
is
is
really none.
yeah,
Yeah, he
right.
has
Well,
no
and
moral compass.
there are moments where yeah, right. So there's not really a moral compass in like the grand scheme of things, but you see how he has navigated the shady ethics of his job.
Right.
And
Yeah.
he talks about how, and this is much later when he's trying to make the case to Driver's character, but when he says things like, well, those people that I killed, like they would have kept on doing really bad things if I hadn't done that.
Right.
And so in these conversations with Dr. Oatman and in conversations with her, you see how he has had to navigate the morality of what he's decided to do. And I think because we can see that navigation of morality, that leads us to where he ends up, which is that he wants to get out of the business.
Yeah.
Right. Well, see, and this is one thing too, and this is kind of why I really feel like this movie even feels kind of like an independent film.
It really
because
does.
of the dialogue. Because I mean,
Yeah.
you notice, and Joe, you especially know this, but we know this as film fans and as writers, that dialogue is so important. And the one thing about independent film is that a lot of really good independent films master the dialogue. They master the character interactions. You look at anything that's in the Viewist universe by Kevin Smith, and dialogue is the key factor in most of that comedy. Half the things that are said in Dogma, if they're delivered by anybody other than independent actors that are in an independent film, and it's going to fail. It wouldn't a lot of the dialogue between Dante and Randall wouldn't work if it was done by, say, I don't know, insert A-listers here.
Right.
Well, or even if it were written by anybody else.
Exactly.
Yeah, to add to that, the next layer of that is how they don't censor themselves. They don't dumb themselves down to reach a broad audience. They say smart things and sarcastic things and things like that they think people are going to get, but they're not sure. So they just say it anyway, and they don't have a filter.
To get it. Right.
Right.
And that's what I really enjoy.
And I think that with all of that in mind, Grosse Pointe Blank serves as almost an artifact of a different time.
Yeah.
Because we've already said that this movie probably wouldn't get picked up today for tone issues and genre issues, but it's also, and this is going to sound like maybe the most asshole thing I've said since we've been doing this, it's almost too smart for general audiences.
Yeah.
I can get behind that.
It's at a time. This movie came out at a time when you had Clerks out, you had Living in Oblivion, which is a Steve Buscemi movie about making movies. That's very, very much in the same vein, very smart, very sarcastic, very snarky, and different tone and kind of cross genre films like that. And so this was right in the wheelhouse of everything that was being made by Miramax at the time. It was kind of Miramax's signature.
This was Miramax at its peak, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I completely agree too.
And sadly enough, it was also at the peak of Weinstein playing Mr. Grabby, which that actually really makes me sad.
Yeah.
That the art has to be overshadowed by the reality.
Yeah, I can't watch any of these movies and see his name come up without feeling some kind of way about it.
Yeah.
Because as much as you want to support the people that had to endure that kind of abuse, you don't want to support him. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because
that
the people,
sense.
because when you watch this movie, everybody gets a cut of whatever you paid to watch it, including the people that had to suffer and including him, even though.
So what we're saying is pirate the fucking thing.
Yeah.
Well, actually,
And
I bought mine used, so only the
pirate
exchange.
it and PayPal Mini Driver.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
well,
awesome.
Mini Driver.
That's all they would
You
take off.
want to talk about someone that deserves a nod and an MVP vote? It's Mini Driver. Oh
See,
my
Yeah.
effing
we're,
god!
so we're gonna get to that. I have to say that for me, it's funny that we all have a different MVP, but for me, the MVP is Jeremy Piven in this movie. I think Jeremy Piven
He's good.
has a level of levity that is, confounding and just you're like, is this guy really that dumb?
Right.
Jeremy Piven. I love Jeremy Piven and everything he does. Jeremy Piven. I like Jeremy Piven, even though I hated the character Ty in One Crazy Summer. I really like Jeremy. I think what really endeared me to Jeremy Piven was his character Draws in PCU with David Spade. And I think that Jeremy Piven just has this very likable personality, and he's very funny. Him and Jon Favreau for me. Him and Jon
the
Favreau
sarcastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
He has that cool sarcasm.
Yeah, he fits, and that's one thing about this movie is it's full of actors who are very snarky and can really snap at you at any time and come back at you at any time, and with their wit.
Oh, absolutely. K. Todd Freeman. I mean, Jeremy Piven is a great example of that. But K. Todd Freeman, who plays one of the FBI guys, he plays Hank Azaria's partner.
Yeah,
he is very good at being snarky. And once again, you want to talk about a Cusack connection. Cusack was in One Crazy Summer with Mark Metcalf, who plays the Master in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. K. Todd Freeman had a short character arc in season 3 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Look at you. That is some knowledge you're kicking.
This guy, I'm telling you, Joe, this guy will both frustrate you and amaze you with his knowledge.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And I love the show. K. Todd Freeman was also a supporting actor in Cider House Rules. Now, Tobey Maguire as well.
Now, if you could name the guy who plays the Rent-A-Cop, I'll be super impressed with that, because that guy also deserves a little bit of a nod.
Oh, he is hilarious.
Yeah,
he is so hilarious. You know what? I can't give you his name off the top of my head, unfortunately, but I am going to look up his. But I'm going to look up his name.
When they are on the lawn and he goes, "Let's talk shop," I just lost it.
I love that he just comes up and he's got the siren going. He's like, "Oh, you're a cop?" No, I'm security. But,
Their conversation, right, about like when he can shoot people.
Deadly Force.
It was so great.
So Martin Blank decides that he is going to go. He's going to take this job.
He's been pressured, but now he's gonna go home.
Yeah, he's going to take this job. Well, he blows a different job.
Was hilarious. That was another one where it sort of endears us to Martin that he's not great at his job.
Yeah.
Right, but he still finishes the job even if it's a little messy.
A little.
Right, because he's trying to poison a guy in his sleep, so he's going down through like the air conditioner to drop some poison in a sleeping man's mouth. The guy wakes up, so Martin Blank just like runs downstairs, kicks the door down, and shoots him in the chest. And again, his client considers that a failure. Like, you were supposed to make it look like an accident, right?
Well, and in thinking about that's what doesn't make him a good hitman, and that's why this kind of works now a little bit, right? Because we find the whole Boudreaux thing too, so where he kills the dog by accident,
right.
Man.
And so he it just seems like he's not very good at this.
Yeah,
he really isn't. It's like he's okay with killing, but he's just not. He can come up with the plans, but
I think that he was also bad at. I think he was bad at the army, and they kicked him out. But then he used that army experience on his resume to become a hitman.
Yeah.
And he's just trying to make enough money and get out before people get hip to the idea that he's not good at it.
Right. But then that makes you wonder, though, why does Grosser want him on his team? Like, if he's so bad at what he does, you know?
Well, I think that you want the shitty person on your team because as long as they're not on your team, they can always undercut you on price.
Well, he says, doesn't he say though, strength in numbers though? Strength in numbers really matters.
Point. Well, the thing is, I think that John Cusack, I think Martin Blank is a good strategy guy. He's good at the planning. It's the execution that he has.
He's also very good at the instincts. He's got good instincts. He knows when something's wrong and gonna happen.
Right.
You just can't.
He's got like sort of the observational aspect of it. He would be like a very good Nick Fury.
Yes.
But not so good at the Iron Man part of it.
Yeah. He's the guy in the chair.
Right. Yeah. Professor X.
Yeah. Oh, he said he's a bald paraplegic.
But only metaphorically.
Metaphorically, yeah.
So where are we? We're in Michigan now.
So we're in Michigan.
Gone to Michigan.
He's meeting up with his buddies. But he's also finding out that while Grosse Pointe is the same, a lot of things have changed. His family home is gone.
That's a big deal, right? So he drives up to see his mom, and the house is gone and has been replaced by a mini mart convenience store.
Which Jeremy Piven did it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. But I want to play this clip too, where he walks in and interrogates the guy working there.
What are you doing here? I'm doing a double shift. What's it look like? How long have you worked here? A couple months. Yeah? Is the manager here? Do you have a supervisor? No, How long have they worked here? I'm not telling you. Yeah? Where do you live? I'm not telling you that either. Where's your manager live? Who? I used to... What are you doing here? I work here. What are you doing here? I work here. And how long have you worked here? Only a couple months. All right. What's done is done. Let's forget about the whole thing.
That's such a great clip.
How long have you been working here? Only a couple of weeks. What did you do with my house? Like,
yeah, I've only been here a few weeks. What the hell do you mean? What did I do?
So in that dialogue again is just another really good example of when the dialogue in this movie starts to hum, it just really hums.
It does. Because I'm not gonna lie to you guys, and now that we're actually into the movie, I can actually say I wasn't super excited to I wasn't super excited to watch this movie because I think I had watched it before, but it didn't resonate with me. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it was because it didn't know what it wanted to be, like we already talked about. But the one great thing, and at the time I didn't understand dialogue and stuff, is that this dialogue is where this movie shines. It's not the plot.
Yeah.
It's the dialogue that does it.
Well,
it's not even character development.
Exactly. Yeah, I was going to say that earlier, that the characters don't really develop much in the course of this film, but you can't expect them to because it's just a few days. But where it shines is in the dialogue for sure. And I think that some people might have had a disconnect with it because when you read a synopsis or you see a trailer for a movie about a hitman, you expect one thing, and this movie doesn't give you that.
No, it doesn't. It comes with its own bit. Yeah. And I think that's part of its charm. It comes with
definitely, even though they don't develop very much over the course of the film, I think Martin does show growth, but at the heart of this thing, this is still a character-driven movie. It's not an action-driven movie.
Very true. Because we don't even get real action until, all right, we get some action at the very, very beginning, but action for the sake of action, we don't really get until we're like a good, half hour in.
Yeah. Joe, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. I thought I heard you say hello for a second, and I was just making sure that you were still with us.
I heard a beep. But I thought maybe I lost you.
Gotcha. Yeah, you are still here.
Woo!
And so
that's what makes this show worth doing.
Yeah. So we see the mini mart. The house is gone. We reconnect with Minnie Driver, whose character's name is Debbie Newberry, who is now working as a disc jockey at the local radio station.
And I'm jealous as hell because I want that job.
Honestly, man, she's got a great radio voice. The way that she, her vocal affect in this film is on point. I was like, if I lived in that town, I would listen to her. I would have a crush on her.
Oh, hell yeah.
And her accent is so impeccable in this movie. It's really amazing.
Yeah, because I mean, in Good Will Hunting, it was like she had that real thick sort of British accent, but once again, it was like, what's going on there? In this one, there's no hint at all. And I think for British people, it's not easy to do an American accent because we're so regionally, our dialect is so
like a Midwestern accent on top of that.
Yeah, Midwestern accents aren't easy.
And she's just, for her, she again also kind of like what we said earlier with Cusack. Minnie Driver plays just a normal chick, but she still is able to ooze everything that she needed to ooze in terms of sexuality and the it girl in town and all of that stuff. But it was never over the top, like you would assume. If imagine with me for a moment a world where Adam Sandler made this movie. And cast himself in the John Cusack role, right? And David Spade is the Jeremy Piven role. Steve Buscemi plays Dr. Oatman. And
I can actually almost see that.
And he gets some like Jennifer Aniston to play Minnie Driver's character. All
right, I'm officially checked out.
Right. And the thing is like, while Jennifer Aniston is hot and she's the it girl, I cannot believe that she lives in Grosse Pointe, Michigan.
Not even a little.
Minnie Driver Driver looks like she belongs in that town, feels like she belongs in that town, but also I have no hard time believing that she's the hottest girl in that town.
Oh, not even. Oh my goodness, you are 100% correct.
And that is all taken to the limit for me when she shows up to her high school reunion wearing a lime green T-shirt and a blazer.
I just love the fact that when she sees him and she's still maintaining her job, but she's doing her own thing and she's making him so uncomfortable. It is so
good. She interrogates him on the air.
And then Hank Azaria calls him, which is hilarious too.
Yeah, we should go ahead and mention that while before we get too far into this, while he is in town, he has two other groups. I guess he has one other hitman that's following him, trying to kill him, and then also two FBI agents are trailing him.
Yeah, Grosser has the two FBI agents going after him. Oh man.
Yeah, and so the FBI agents call into the radio show while he's being grilled by Minnie Driver. And honestly, it doesn't take either. Martin Blank is very good at observation, which we mentioned, or these other people are terrible at their job. As well.
Here's a combination of both.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say column A, column B on that one, brother.
Yeah, and so maybe the point of the Dan Aykroyd Hitman Union is that he's going to assemble all of the shittiest hitmen so that hopefully with all of them together, they can actually do something.
They can be one good hitman.
Right.
Strength in numbers.
Yes, strength in numbers. 50 shitty hitmen.
Wow, that's a better title than 50 Shades of Grey.
50 Shitty Hitmen?
Yes. But I'm serious, because it's like, the FBI guys, like the FBI, if they're tailing a guy, there's no way they're gonna do something like that.
No.
Like at all. And it's
they're not going to be hanging out outside of their car. They're not going to shop in the same places. They're not going to use the restroom that he's using. You would never know those dudes were there.
Exactly. And like real hitmen aren't going to do some wild ass shootout at the OK Corral. I mean, what the hell is this movie? It's totally, you want to talk about an unbelievable film. One Crazy Summer is more believable in that regard.
Well, because it's magical realism.
Yes. A wizard did it. That's all there is to it. This is just, we suck at our jobs.
Either that, or maybe they just all showed up and they're like, it's fucking Michigan. Who cares?
You know what? That wouldn't surprise me either. You know what? It's Michigan. Who's going to believe anything like this is happening? I mean, at this point in time, you got two guys.
Well, none of the people in Michigan believed it was happening either. That's the funny thing is, like, all of his classmates never got a clue until he actually killed somebody.
And then it's like,
yeah,
there might be something afoot here.
Yeah, so you bring up the shootout in the mini mart between Martin Blank and this other guy that's trailing him.
Oh my goodness.
The other guy ends up getting away, and Martin Blank discovers that there's a bomb in the microwave.
Now, can we just say, now, I'm not military trained, but I would like to say that I'm pretty sure that's not the way C4 works.
Joe, you're military trained. Is that the way C4 works?
No, not really.
I was about to say, Joe's getting ready to shit on our point, and then he's like, no, you're absolutely right. That's not the way it works. I swear to God, I'm watching that scene, and I'm like, I'm looking, well, I have to be fair, and Sharon will call me out if I'm not being 100% truthful. When we were watching this, I was playing Saints Row, and I was getting pissed off because I was at one of the final missions where I had to hijack a campaign bus and put it on train tracks. So I'm watching Grosse Pointe Blank, and I'm like, wait a second. And I paused the game, and I'm like, why are hitmen shooting up in and why is there C4 in a microwave?
Well, and the whole time the shootout's going on, the clerk for the convenience store is playing a Doom arcade machine.
Which Doom 2 was never released in arcades like that. That was specially made for the movie.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, and so the kid's wearing these big headphones. He can't hear the shootout going on behind him. When Martin Blank finds the bomb or the C4 in the microwave, he runs out of the mini mart, realizes the kid's in there, runs back and grabs him, and then runs out. And
how does he have time to do that?
And we get what is one of my favorite exchanges in the movie, and we will listen to that right now.
Cool. What'd you do that for? It's not me. You all right? No, I'm not all right. I'm hurt. I'm pissed. Gotta find a new job.
I gotta go find another job now.
Yeah, it's not, oh my God, I almost died. It's, well, now I gotta find a new job.
Right.
Hey, thanks for saving my life, mysterious stranger.
Right. And see, like, these are the moments for me that like really make this movie work, because like we said earlier, there are a lot of times where the movie could have slipped really easily into the darker territory and gone that route. But in moments like this, as soon as we get close to that, they snap us back out of it with just like really solid comedic writing and solid comedic timing and acting.
Absolutely. And I'm just still picturing it. All right, I've got big headphones. I've got DJ size headphones. I can still hear things.
Yeah,
they
didn't. Noise canceling headphones didn't exist at that time.
No, they didn't.
But Brian, have you ever been rocking out to Radiohead while playing a Doom 2
Motorhead.
specially made arcade machine?
Motorhead. You said that.
Yeah, I was about to
Motorhead.
say,
Sorry, Motorhead.
I have never rocked out to Radiohead. Whoever told you that is a damn liar. But have I ever rocked out to Motorhead while playing Doom 2?
You mean to tell me you've never jammed, you've never turned up Creep to volume 12 and just let it ride?
No. Yeah, I have to say that's a negative for me, Chummer. My name's not Scott Tenorman. No, what the hell am I doing here? Now, I have rocked out to Motorhead while playing Tekken.
Nice.
So you probably know that this scene is probably the most realistic and accurate depiction.
Well, yeah. Well, when you get rid of the Radiohead aspect of it, I mean, I can understand why.
Yeah.
Well, see, what they also didn't tell us was that this was also Triple H's life story, because as a kid, he was a huge fan of Motorhead. So he would go to the gym and listen to Motorhead, and while people were shooting out, he wouldn't notice because he's so busy pumping the iron and listening to Lemmy.
And if his convenience store hadn't been blown up, he may never have been in the WWE and married Stephanie McMahon.
Exactly. Thank you, Martin.
He had to go find
Blank.
another job.
Yeah. Thank you, Martin Blank.
I want to talk about, and this is just a really quick note here. How many characters has John Cusack played where the name of the character is so blatantly a reference to what the movie's about?
Well,
you got Hoops McCann.
Hoops McCann, I was just getting ready to say. And then
Martin.
we have Martin Blank. Now, what I want to know, is that supposed to be a reference to, he's nobody? Or is that, I don't know. It's just so weird.
Well, I think it's a reference to the fact that he's a shitty hitman and shooting blanks.
Yeah, okay. See, that...
Or point blank range, whatever that is.
Yeah, there you go. Or you know what? They just need it. Grosse Pointe. Blank. That's perfect. And he's Martin Blank.
They should have just named it Grosser Point Blank, so they could have folded everybody in there.
There you go. That would have been awesome.
But yeah, right, so the mini mart. We also find that, and this is before the mini mart explosion, but Martin tracks down mom who is living in a nursing home.
Yeah,
they really wax over this part of the movie, which to me is very weird.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the bigger drop the balls in character development, where we don't really know so much about his mother. Number two, it's if you're making this money to take care of your mom, how the hell do you not know that your mom's house has been torn down?
Yeah. Well, and supposedly, I think he says that he had been sending the money and she just hadn't used it to take care of the house or whatever. But yeah, I completely agree with you. This to me is the moment. One of the weaknesses that really sort of stood out to me, because when he shows up to see her and you have this moment where she doesn't know who he is, just moments after recognizing him. You have what I believe is, when you watch it the first time, it feels like they're laying the groundwork for some really interesting character development on his part, and then they just never really revisit his mother at all.
It's hi, Mother Blank, and you're gone.
Yeah,
right. So that's unfortunate, because it could have been interesting. The movie could have done with a little bit more runtime if they wanted to explore that story a little more.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, isn't that the last time we even see her on screen?
I think so.
That's horrible. That's a bad storytelling job right there. It really is.
And I can tell you that the screenplay was not long enough to have something where they cut out of it. So
right.
So
I don't think this was ever a part of it.
So it's that they put it in and it was just well, that's enough of that.
Yeah, it's almost like the guy wrote the scene and was like, I'll come back to that later, and then just forgot.
Worst editing ever.
Yeah, but and so that is disappointing. Now back to the main storyline here, which is trite in contrast to what we just talking about with a mother who potentially has dementia, or something, right?
Yeah.
And he's really just trying to win over he's trying to win Debbie back over, and so he finally convinces her to go with him to the high school reunion. He's going to go pick her up. Keep in mind the whole time he's really in town to pull off this last job,
right,
to kill somebody. He keeps putting it off and putting it off because he is really focusing on reconnecting.
And he's the worst hitman ever.
Yeah, and he is really.
At which point Joe Cusack starts to get nervous, and then she sets the office on fire.
Oh God, that was so hilarious. That was like the best part of the movie for me. It really was.
Yeah,
then he leaves like a bundle of cash under her desk, which I thought was pretty funny too.
Yeah, so they and there's like a specific trigger for that. Oh, I think it's after he kills the guy while he's at the reunion.
Yeah.
She's freaking out because it's like, crap, time for some plausible deniability.
Yeah, so she just sets everything on fire. She's fantastic every time. The whole time he's like periodically calling Dr. Oatman to be like, haven't killed anybody yet. Like, and I don't know, every interaction between those two is gold. But let's go ahead and get to the reunion. Cusack shows up to pick up his girl, and so he's got to go meet or re-meet Debbie's father.
Man.
So that is Bart Newberry, who is a big
nice
deal.
Nice name. Oh, Mitchell Ryan. And do you know
that's name?
Do you know who he is? Who he actually is, Shane?
Who Bart Newberry is?
Well, Mitchell Ryan.
No, I do not.
That is General Peter McAllister from Lethal Weapon, Shane.
Yes, he is.
Shut your mouth! Shut up!
Mr. Joshua, give me your arm.
Yes.
Yeah. So the tension between Debbie, and we skipped over this, and man, an hour and 10 minutes is a long time to have skipped over it. The central tension between Debbie and Martin Blank is that he stood her up at prom when they were in high school.
He broke her heart. Because the way everyone makes it out to be was that they were going to get married out of high school, and by 10 years later, they would have what their other classmates have. They'd have gotten married, had kids, blah blah blah, yada yada yada. It was a big him standing her up was a big freaking deal.
And he stood up and just kind of disappeared too. Like it wasn't that he just didn't go to prom. That was sort of the last time anybody saw him was right before prom, and then he went off to join the military.
Yeah, they bring that up in the whole movie. Yeah, what happened to you? You were just gone.
Yeah, that's great.
And so Debbie finally agrees to go to the homecoming, or not the homecoming dance, but the class reunion with him.
For an airplane, I think she should have held out for more.
Right.
Yeah, she definitely could have milked a lot more out of him for that.
Yeah, I mean, look at all that money that he gave Joan.
Yeah.
Seriously. Oh my goodness. She could have at least gotten like her car paid off.
Yeah. So they go. He shows up. He's there on time.
Which Sharon was like, he's gonna stand her up again. He's gonna be late. It was too funny. Because see, every time, whenever I watch movies for the show, Sharon is always watching them as well because she only gets to listen to the show. So she watches the movie when I take the notes and everything for our talking points. So she's like, he's just gonna stand her up, isn't he? And I'm like, I don't know. Why are you asking me?
Right. But he doesn't. But at the same time, you wouldn't be wrong to assume that could happen, right? Because of his line of work, it's possible something bad could happen to him, and it would be out of his control, you know?
Right.
But no, he shows up, he gets her, they go to the class reunion, and here's my second vote for MVP. And you guys may not even remember this person, but she just stood out to me on the screen. There's a woman at the class reunion who's dancing. She's in the middle of the dance crowd, and she's doing this one dance move over and over and over again. And it's like fists like in a broken Y over her head, and she's pumping her fists in a square. She'll do the first point, the second point, and then she'll go down and she'll pump her fist 2 points and pump her fist 2 points. And every time they show the dance floor, that woman is doing that same dance every time.
You gotta love the extras, man, when they're dedicated to their craft.
Was it Jenna Elfman that you were talking about?
Is that Jenna Elfman?
Yeah,
I think it was.
With the neck brace.
I don't think it was the neck brace. I don't think my girl had a neck brace.
Oh, because the one with the neck brace where she was telling everybody how she died and then went to back. That was Jenna Elfman.
And no, it's not her. This girl doesn't have any speaking parts. This girl just dances.
Can I just mention one thing about that scene? Scene.
Absolutely.
Is the MVP. It's the Jenny Slater thing. Like, hi, Jenny Slater. Hi, Jenny Slater. All my high school.
Yes.
All my high school. Like validated it.
Oh man, we are having some trouble with Joe right now.
Joe.
Hello.
Hey,
there you
are.
Go.
You're just kind of breaking up a little bit.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I said, you know, the Jenny Slater thing. How you saying, you know, back to me in one memory because I was validated all of a sudden because she still won't talk to me.
Right. Yeah. Well, and then there was the other guy who was clearly like the bully, right? Who wanted to fight Martin Blank.
Oh my God, Abraham from the Walking Dead, Michael. Oh my God.
I'm drawing a blank.
And Martin Blank just goes up to him and he's just like, "Hey man, what is this about? You don't want to fight me. Who do you want to fight?"
He uses the Jedi mind trick on him.
Yeah, he does.
Michael Cudlitz. Oh my God, Michael Cudlitz. Totally. AKA Abraham. And you want to know what's really hilarious about Michael Cudlitz? Now, when this movie came out, this was also, and I'm going to double check this so I can make my point. Now, Michael Cudlitz, AKA Abraham from The Walking Dead, I've already said it, was born in 1964. Him and John Cusack are peers. Okay? So at this point in time, he was 32 years old during this movie. Can either one of you fashion to guess what film he did the year prior in 1996?
I got no idea.
D3, The Mighty Ducks, playing a high school senior. So, what in the hell, man?
That's so weird. What a leap.
I mean, that is so crazy. It's like Michael Cudlitz thinks he's Ralph Macchio. Yeah, I'm 30, but I can still be a high schooler. But I'm not saying anything bad about Ralph Macchio because Sharon will kill me in my sleep if I do. But I just had to bring that up.
As is becoming custom here, we're gonna make quick work of the end of this thing. Then to kill the hitman, finds the hitman at the high school reunion. There's a big John Cusack action set piece here at the end. He kills the guy by stabbing him in the neck with a pin. His buddy Jeremy Piven shows up and helps him wrap him up in a banner.
Now that is a true friend.
That's it, man. And everybody needs a friend like that that'll just be like, "Oh, no questions asked. What are we doing? We're wrapping this dead body up and throwing him in the furnace. Let's do it."
Now that is a ride or die, homie.
That is a ride or die for sure.
Now, which one of you guys are going to help me dump the body?
I just always assumed that I would be the body. So.
Damn it, Shay, you're stifling my creativity on the show.
I was going to say, Brian, I don't know why you're bringing up Thursday all of a sudden again, but.
Sorry. Yeah, that is right. We are sworn to secrecy. Thankfully, there's nothing to talk about.
That's right. So anyway, so finally Martin Blank after the reunion, and now everybody knows that. Well, not everybody, but definitely
Most
Debbie
everyone knows. Debbie knows.
Yeah, because Debbie saw him with the
All the
dead
people that are
body.
important
Jeremy Piven did. And
all the
so
important people in the film.
this is when he calls the assistant. She starts setting fire to everything in the old office. And now he is going to go ahead and finish his job that he was sent to Grosse Pointe to do. And he discovers that, surprise, it's actually Debbie's father he's been sent there to kill.
Now, this was a great twist because I had almost completely forgotten about the job.
Uh-huh.
I had just about forgotten about the job. So now we've got this, and it's like, oh, snap, it's getting real, son.
Yep, and he has tried to convince Debbie that he is letting go of that life. He's not going to be a part of it anymore. And now this is his opportunity to prove that. And he ultimately saves her father.
Yeah, and I'll tell you one thing, that was some interesting stuff right there. That was a very good end set piece. The fight choreography. Even though I don't believe John Cusack as a badass fighting guy, but this was a pretty sweet set piece. This was pretty well done.
And what was great about it is, again, that the dialogue almost overshadows the action because he has this heart-to-heart with Debbie while he's killing all of these other guys.
I wonder, hey, hun, can I have a heart-to-heart with you while I murder someone?
Make this gun work.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that last little bit there is really solid, and ultimately he asks her to marry him, right, at the end.
Yeah. So this is the second time in our Summer of Cusack where John Cusack is marrying a woman asking a woman to marry him in a very unromantic way.
Yeah, and pretty non-conventional proposals here in the Summer of Cusack.
Yeah, maybe if I were John Cusack, I would have proposed to Sharon after breaking a guy's neck who came after me because I was almost maybe cheating on her with that guy's girlfriend. But no, I just did it at karaoke like some sucker.
Like some sucker.
Or
well, I'm sure
like
it was
Fred
lovely.
Durst says, like a chump.
You're
But it worked. She said yes.
Speaking of music that you can listen to while ignoring a shootout, shout out to Limp Bizkit.
Okay.
Oh man.
Can we
Huh?
talk a little bit to this?
Oh man. We're losing Joe again.
Oh.
Joe. You in the California hills.
Hello.
Yep, we can
There
hear
you
you
go.
now. What do you want us to talk about?
The music, the soundtrack to this
Oh
movie.
my god, this soundtrack.
Yes.
This soundtrack is like... Now, the one thing that I really loved about Captain Marvel this year was that it was like being in a time capsule to the 90s.
Yeah.
Well, watching Grosse Pointe Blank is the time capsule to the 90s that I needed.
Because Captain Marvel felt like a time capsule that was put together by people who remember the 90s, but
Right.
Grosse Pointe Blank felt like people that were in the 90s.
Exactly. It was like, it was everything about that year. The music was everything about that time frame that was special, that made the 90s such a special time.
I'm glad that Joe brought that up because I'm usually the guy that's like, what about that soundtrack? But yeah,
Joe, picking it up, man. Picking up the ball and running with it.
Was absolutely on point for sure. Well, while it
the
seems
music
like
fit every scene. The music fit every scene.
Yeah.
Totally.
So before we lose Joe again, let's go ahead and get into our ratings. If this is your first time with the Plotaholics, let's have bartender Smiley explain to you our rating system.
The Plotaholics rating system for the movies is a pretty simple system. Basically, they rate movies based on how many shots it takes to get through them. So if you got a good movie and you get through it all the way sober, then it takes 0 shots to get through the movie. And then if you got a really bad movie, then it could take up to 5 shots to get through the whole thing. I think you can try to figure out the middle part yourself. So, what can I get you?
All right.
Smiley helps me get through the day. I hear Smiley's voice, and it just helps me.
My favorite thing about Smiley is how his accent changes as the clip goes. And he seems to get he seems to get increasingly fed up with the fact that he's having to tell people how this works.
Well, the thing is, Smiley may or may not be an assassin, so he has to change. He has to change things.
Point. Now, Joe and I have both seen this movie before. You had seen it before too, right, Brian?
I had, but I hadn't seen all of it. So this was like my first time really just sitting with it and watching it, even though I was also playing Saints Row at the time. But it was my first time really watching it and giving it a real chance.
Well,
nice.
Who would like to offer up their rating first?
Joe.
Okay.
As the guest, remember, Joe, that the better the movie, the lower the shot count.
Yeah, well, I mean, up until today, I would have said 1, but I think you guys brought up some good points about some of the things that are missing in this film and some of the things I didn't think about. So I probably give it a solid 2. The mother scene alone gets 1 for sure, but I think for the context being a little weirder than it should have been, I think I would say 2, a solid 2, but maybe a 1.5 or just 1, and I'll get away with just 1. But
yeah, Brian.
My thing with this, and this is coming from a guy who, like I said, I love Cusack, but it's not my favorite Cusack movie. I know it is for a lot of people, and I'm probably gonna piss a lot of the fans of this film off. But I have it with the star power that they have in it. With it could have been so much better. So I have to give it a 3. I have to give it a 3-shot rating. I'm sorry, that's not the way C4 works. How dare you just ignore the mother?
Conventional wisdom.
Yeah. But what really saves this movie is standout performances by Joan Cusack and Jeremy Piven. Jeremy Piven and Joan Cusack really, I think, and even more so than Dan Aykroyd, they save this movie, because the one thing about John Cusack is that he's really good at he's not so much a movie carrying talent, but he's a decent leading man. In this film, it was even more so, like with the star power in this cast. Being the lead, he should have been able to carry this movie a lot more. So it's his supporters that really, really help him. They are the bedrock for him in this film. So I have to give it a solid 3-shot rating for that.
Yeah. I agree that John. Yeah, I agree that John Cusack is much more. He's like a really solid point guard in basketball. He's not a LeBron James, right? Like he's not going to get you to the promised land by himself. But if you can surround him with some quality talent, then he can take you a long way.
Right. He's John Stockton.
Yeah, he's really good when he's surrounded by really good players. Look at High Fidelity and how good he is in that movie because of the people around him.
Right.
And I think that this movie is another example of that. In the back, the ensemble does help carry this movie. I think this movie is tough to judge because of all the things that we've talked about. Now, there are weaknesses, as we've said, with like the mother storyline that's kind of dropped pretty quickly. But I'm pretty forgiving of movies that take chances, because I'd much rather watch something that was a swing and a miss than something that was just cut from the same cloth as everything else. And I don't think that this was a miss at all. I think that it hits more than it misses.
It does. It's just that the writing isn't. The writing is all in the dialogue. It's not in the story.
Yeah, but I think that, and this is just for me. I think that when you're judging anything, it's important to judge it on the merits of what it is trying to be. And to your point, Brian, you think that it doesn't know what it wants to be, but I think it knows exactly what it wants to be. It just wants to be something that we've never seen before, which is a tall order. And so to that end, I'm falling more in line with Joe. It's a 1 or a 2 for me, 1.5, somewhere in that realm, because it does have some weaknesses in its storytelling. It would have been a better movie if they had just not ever even shown us the mother.
Yes.
And made that even an element. But I think that the way that it blends genre and the way that it toes the line between serious and comedic really worked for me. So I definitely would give it. I would do it like a shot with a beer chaser.
Oh, so you need a Boilermaker.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, I'm if I have to give it a solid number, I think I probably still go 1, because it's not perfect. But if I'm judging it on the merits of what its goals are, I think that it comes closer to achieving those goals than it doesn't.
Fair enough. That's a fair point. It's just like I said, for me, where you've got Hank Azaria, K. Todd Freeman, and I'm going with support guys at this point.
Yeah.
K. Todd Freeman, Hank Azaria, Jeremy Piven, Michael Cudlitz, Jenna Elfman, Joan Cusack. These folks are just way too good.
Yeah.
Way too good. And thank God their talent allows them to make the most out of the script with what they've got. I just really wish that the writing of the script, of the story in and of itself, would support how great the dialogue is.
Yeah.
So, but to your point and to Joe's point, I totally can get on board with that. It's just, for the sake of you and I not having the same rating all the time, because that's happened a lot.
Yeah, well, and I think that I don't know. I like weird movies, man. I will give a high rating to a weird movie sometimes, just because, like I said, one of my favorite filmmakers, and we're starting to drift a little bit, but one of my favorite filmmakers is M. Night Shyamalan, just because he takes risks. They don't always work, but I appreciate that he's willing to take a chance on something that's different and unique.
Yeah, I can agree to that point, because he's proven that he's not afraid to do it. And I mean, sometimes it works. The Sixth Sense was an amazing risk, and it worked out very well. Problem was with him is that now he tried to do so much along those lines, and that's where it missed. But when he was able to make it work, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think you're absolutely right. This is a film that I definitely want to revisit and watch again, because
it's definitely something that I think that people should watch, especially if you're tired of going to the theater and having to choose from 8 of the same thing. Then give this movie a shot. It may not be up your alley, but it will be different.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
And it does, and it is enjoyable, because I mean, a 3-shot rating sounds maybe bad, but it's really not, because you still had a good time.
I did. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I always enjoyed Cusack. I always enjoy I love his stage presence. I love his screen presence.
Yeah.
Cusack, even when he's the support character, his screen presence in 16 Candles, you couldn't deny him. If it wasn't for Anthony Michael Hall, John Cusack would have stole the scenes he was in. But Anthony Michael Hall's talent wouldn't let that happen.
There you go.
Yeah.
Joe, any final thoughts?
I think this is I think it's right. You're right on point, Shane, in that it's a movie that wanted to be different, and it tried something, and I think for the most part it worked out. I think it was. I think the pacing, the intelligence of it, the dialogue, the banter, the back and forth, the character actors that it employed in this movie, I think all were on point. I do think that the tone was a little off at times, and that's is totally understandable. But I really think that it really made and made this movie unique and interesting, and something that we'll probably never see again. So
yeah, at least not from one of the big studios.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I could see an indie film doing something similar to this, and there has been others. Like I mentioned earlier, there was a movie with Jason Priestley called Cold Blooded. If you guys want to check that out, that's in the vein of this movie a little bit. But it is an indie film in my mind for sure.
Absolutely.
I don't think of it as a studio film, and it also makes me wonder how good would Tom Jacobowitz have been if he was still with us and making movies.
Right. And I think that
was what I was sort of thinking of whenever you said that he had already passed.
Yeah. And I really think that this is the type of film that, someone could really, if they had the opportunity, could grow a very, very amazing career at. I'm looking over Tom Jankowitz now, and Grosse Pointe Blank was his big deal. In the next 15 years, he's writing newspaper articles and stuff. I really, and he was a script doctor from there. I really wish that he would have had the chance to do more. I really wish that he could have gotten a little bit more of a chance to really, I don't know.
And I'm wondering,
just showcase himself.
I'm wondering if he screwed it up a little bit too, because you do see John Cusack's name in the writing credits, and that usually indicates that the actor didn't really care for the writer's interpretation, and thus they had to take it over and change it to the merit of the person making the movie.
Right.
And he might have been blackballed from making anything else because of that experience that John Cusack had. John Cusack is an A-list actor, so if he's telling people that this guy had a good idea, but he was a terrible person to work with, he may not have gotten another opportunity because of that.
That's a good point. That's another good point by you. It's kind of like the whole situation that and hold on, thank you for being in my head. That was exactly where I was going. That issue with American History X, because powerful film, very well done, but
not the film that the writer or the star had thought it would be.
Right.
They had to take it over and recut it.
Right. And the fact that and this is how Edward Norton got his reputation with how so it really makes you think about how these things work on set and after your script is written. And that's something for you budding screenwriters out there that might be listening to this. Keep this in mind, how these things happen. Your finished script isn't always going to be what is seen, because especially if you get A-listers and all this, that, and the other, you're going to get egos, you're going to get all of that. So that's definitely
that is a lesson for.
I was just gonna say, it really brings to the point too novelists who want to make their own movies.
Well, and what I was going to say is it's really a lesson to learn for any creative who is embarking on any sort of collaborative partnership, because if there is a power dynamic at play, then eventually you will run up against somebody that
bigger than you.
Yeah. That's and that's going to make things difficult, and you kind of have to play that game of how much can I really push here before I write myself out of the business, right?
Right. Not everyone's going to have the same power that J.K. Rowling has.
Right.
Not everyone's gonna have that. Or even Stephanie Meyer, I think Stephanie Meyer. I mean, you didn't really hear a lot of anything going on with that, but sometimes it's how you interact with people. It's how what I mean. It's sometimes you might just click with these individuals that will help you out, but it doesn't always happen. So yeah, if you're going to collaborate, you got to be ready for that. And for authors that want to try to take that next step, I think as writers, and as all three of us are, I think that we are very, very protective. And in that term, being protective, are very sensitive and sometimes overly sensitive about our art. And I think in Hollywood, they aren't as sensitive. They're about making money. So we have to realize that you're not going to get people that are going to be as dedicated to vision and art as you are in that regard.
And even more so, this is a medium that's run by a director and actors and other people who are collaborating. So they have a vision just as much as anybody else, and they have a right to that vision because they've been given that right to do this movie. Exactly. So whatever their vision is, you have to accept that sometimes too.
Yeah, and I think that the only time that you're ever going to get, I guess, a truly sort of hive-minded, possibly everyone on the same page. Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, but if it's an indie production, because everyone is at the same level. Yeah, everyone is trying to break out. Everyone wants to, they want to have the positive reputation. They, you know what I mean? So, but when you get to the big level, the A-lister type, you've got ego on top of everything else. You're not going to make me look bad. Where in indie, it's how can we make this the best we can?
Totally.
So, and it's unfortunate that it happened this way with Mr. Jankowicz but at least now in his death, he's been dead now for 6 years. We can appreciate what he attempted to bring us as we enjoy the Summer of Cusack.
Yeah, and he attempted to bring us something that was interesting and unique, and I'm glad that it found its way to the screen.
Absolutely. Especially when Cusack says this is one of his favorite movies that he's done.
Joe's got to get out of here, so we are going to start to wrap things up. Everybody, in 2 weeks, you can look for the next episode of the Plotaholics podcast, which is the 4th episode of the Summer of Cusack, which will be the Hot Tub Time Machine.
I am so excited to do this movie. I am as excited as I was to do One Crazy Summer. Shane, Joe, Hot Tub Time Machine is the Great White Buffalo.
I believe that I am working on a theory that would have Hot Tub Time Machine in the same universe as One Crazy Summer.
I love it.
And because I also believe Hot Tub Time Machine is a masterpiece of magical realism.
A wizard did it, and that wizard's name was Chevy Chase.
Absolutely. Well, hey, we're going to go ahead and hit the old dusty trail here for the Plotaholics. That is the great Joe Compton. Joe, tell everybody where they can find all your stuff.
GoIndieNow.com. I'm on Twitter at JoeDream73. GoIndieNow on Instagram and Facebook. GoIndieNow as well /GoIndieNow. And that's me.
Yeah,
and if you guys haven't checked out any of Joe Compton's programming with Go Indie Now, what the hell are you doing? Check out Joe Compton. He does great interviews. He really gets to the heart and the meat of things, and definitely shoot Joe some love and some support as well, because dude, Go Indie Now is amazing. Well, we love you too, man. And especially if you're an aspiring author, actor, musician, wrestler, even, GoIndieNow covers independent. I mean, Joe and I have even talked about expanding more of the independent thing. We were talking about wrestling at one point and stuff.
Yep.
So I mean, GoIndieNow. It's not just independent art, independent art. So get out there, spread the word, give Joe some love.
And
he
Joe
has the coolest hat in the business.
And Joe has been incredibly supportive of the Plotaholics since the jump, and we appreciate that out of you, Joe.
Well, because it's awesome. I love it. Everybody needs to stay here and wait for this thing to blow up because it's going to.
Yeah, I believe.
Joe, are you scheduling a new hat fitting? That is awesome. I love Joe. Joe, but no, seriously, Joe's the coolest dude. He'll definitely, so definitely check out GoIndieNow, and just shoot a shout out. And Shane, do you have anything coming up as well? How can we find you?
Oh man,
how can we stop you?
I don't have anything on the books right now, but I am at ShaneWilsonAuthor.com is probably the best way to find me. Man, there's some like cool GPS stuff going on
I love it.
Joe's.
I'm in Safeway.
Nice.
I
love it.
Well,
I had to do something weird.
I'm glad because
something weird for the end credits.
Yeah, well, I'm glad because it's not distracting at all. So
it's really not.
Bryan, you've just had a book re-released. Where can people find your stuff?
Oh yeah, we just with Burning Willow Press, my primary and only publishing home at this point. We just re-released my 2017 novel, Invincible Heart, book 1 of the John Baker Chronicles, spin-off to Kendra Souders' Mutation Archive series. You can go to Amazon.com, search Bryan Tan for that, and it's available now in print and Kindle formats. Ebook will be coming soon as I get off my ass and get that done. You can find me at bryantan.com. Author Bryan Tan on Facebook and Twitter, or at Plotaholics on Twitter and Facebook.
There you go. And yeah, you can check the Plotaholics stuff out. We post pretty regularly over at plotaholics.com. So make sure that you're following us on all of the appropriate channels, and we will see you back here in 2 weeks for Hot Tub Time Machine. I am, for the Plotaholics, I'm Shane Wilson.
I'm Bryan Tan.
And we'll see you again real soon.
Take a trip with us to Nilbog. Just promise not to drink the goo. Oh my God! If you get sucked into the Matrix, we will send the phone for you.
Do you believe in fate?
Sometimes the end game is the perfect place to start.
We're in the end game now.
And other times you want to pretend the prequels were never a real thing. Let's just pod race to the end.
It's working!
Every movie has a plot hole, and every hole gets filled somehow. Whiskey, wine, or blue milk. Just don't cut me off right now. We're the Plotaholics. A breakfast club or two. We are the Plotaholics. Ripping plots apart for you. Shane and Bryan are an island. Two real-life misfit toys, wanting to be a RoboCop.
Thank you for your cooperation.
Settling for Black Circle boys. And just like Dr. Hammond, extracting amber from wood.
And later there's running and then screaming.
A little too busy asking if we could, and never asking if we should. But every movie has a plot hole, and every hole gets filled somehow with whiskey, wine, or blue milk. Just don't cut me off right now. We're the Plotaholics, a breakfast club of two. We're the Plotaholics, ripping plots apart for you.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.